So I have Graves' disease, and usually that's genetic, but no one in my family that I know of has it. And I was maybe like 23 when it kind of like clicked on. And I immediately started losing a ton. When I say a ton of weight, I mean a ton of weight. I eventually got down to 90 pounds and I was eating like a horse. Like I couldn't eat
Mm.
enough and I couldn't even sit up anymore because my resting heart rate was over 200. And
Jeez.
yeah, I'd almost faint just sitting up. And I eventually couldn't walk anymore because my muscles started to atrophy. And I'm going to the doctor. And this lady is like, well, I went to Chapel Hill, so I'm a
Mm.
great doctor. And I'm telling you that you're just stressed. And then I went back and she's like, it might be mono, wasn't mono. You're probably just dehydrated. I'm like, I'm not fucking dehydrated. Like
Yeah.
I'm dying. So I go
Imagine
into the
going in with like flu-like temperatures and a resting heart rate above even 100 and being told like you're probably fine. It's just nonsense.
nonsense. But she had an
Yeah.
MD and she went to like this fancy school. So I was just this dumb kid and she had no like, you know what I mean, listen to her. I ended up going to a walk-in clinic that's like super janky and dirty and filled with questionable people and I'm like, I really think I'm going to die. I don't know what's happening. And he rushed me to the hospital. He's like, I'm pretty sure you have Graves' disease. We need to put you on this cardiac machine to make sure that, you know, your heart doesn't stop. And then I simply got like a pill. And then all of a sudden my thyroid started to like not it started to slow down and like quite literally saved my life. But this lady was just so attached to her identity of a doctor and a prestigious doctor that she couldn't even fathom that like me, a regular person, was suggesting that she was wrong could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's nuts. It's interesting because I've encountered a lot of women who have dealt with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, but
Mhm.
not as many who have had Graves. Did you find out, like, do you take a medication that suppresses TSH or it suppresses like your signaling to produce T4, or what is like the thing you have to take to control it? Or is it
So
corrected by diet now?
no, so interestingly, I was on methimazole for a really long time and that just like slowed
Mhm.
down the production, I think, of T3 or T4. I don't know.
T4 would be the more
T4.
inactive that converts to T3. So I would assume T4, but like,
Yeah, so it essentially slowed it down to a point where that made sense, and then I had my second baby, and then my thyroid was going crazy, and I told them the whole pregnancy, and this goes back to my issues with doctors and, like, why I've fired so many. I told them while I was pregnant, I don't feel right, like, this is my second pregnancy, I feel sluggish, I feel almost like depressed wasn't the right word, but just, like, dull, like nothing, like I just didn't feel alive. They were checking my blood, but they said it was all within the healthy parameters. I have my second baby, and then all of a sudden I found like this incredible like private practice doctor and she's like, I think it flipped and like you just aren't making thyroid hormone anymore. So she did these really in-depth tests that I had never done in like my decade of being sick. She took me off the medication. I haven't been on it for like 4 or 5 months now, and my thyroid is like slowly evening out just through like stress mitigation. I'm like super into Dispenza, so like mindset, right? Like kind of controlling negative thoughts and your stress and your space, and like healing on like a woo quantum level, but also diet, right? Like cleaning up your diet and forcing yourself to move. I got in a place where I was like so just like I just gave up, no energy. I had the baby weight. I was like, my thyroid's not fucking working. And just like this woe is me mentality. And eventually I was just like, I had to beat myself up about it. I'm like, you were a piece of shit and you're never going to lose this weight. Like, just move. You already feel like trash. You have the workout stuff right in the next room. Like, just do it. Like, stop being a bitch. So that was my way of doing it. And I started moving and everything started to kind of heal. And I feel a million times better. But it's like whatever modality works for you. If you have to like be a bully and like kind of like beat yourself to up to go, fucking go. Or if you can do it in a loving way, do it that way. But don't just settle for not feeling good.
hmm. Do you have blood work now to oversee the thyroid function, or how do you kind of like keep an eye on it other than general sense of, feeling not over the top, cranked heart rate, etc.?
Yeah, I check it like every 2 or 3 months, and it's still
Okay.
on the low end, and I haven't been on medicine, so I've had it checked twice now since I've been off, and it's still low, and, I definitely don't feel hyper because when I feel hyper, it's I get really hot and wired and agitated. I start getting like palpitations or some tremors that'll start showing up. So none of that's happening. And then if I would, then I would go get a panel. But again, it's like most of the doctors that run panels, it's like, what are you even looking for? You're not even checking for all of the right things. Like you're taking like this super small and like vague snapshot that doesn't tell you anything that's actually happening.
Yeah, even diagnosing thyroid issues, it's like oftentimes they use very I don't know, like especially in Canada where I am, they use very preliminary screening tactics to assess where your status is at. Like they'll look at your TSH and then nothing else. And only if your TSH is like cranked over 5 will they actually look at your T4. And then your T4 has to be crashed into nothingness to even look at your T3. And it's like mind blowing because you could have like a conversion issue to reverse T3 and just be like, still, even on paper, short of not looking at the reverse T3, you could have a normal looking thyroid panel, but be super hypo just because none of it is actually, getting activating the receptor. So
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy how granular you have to get almost on self education these days, but especially for like unique health issues. But at the same time, I guess it's difficult to expect general like family doctors to know everything like a specialist would, like an endo or urologist or whatever. But the way that they approach it oftentimes I feel like is from a position of I know the answer, I just like don't want to tell you it, or I already know it and you're just like making stuff up in your head, which is problematic and is kind of what inspired me to start Merrick Health, which is where I kind of get all the best minds, in my opinion, from my particular niche